Hey, what is going on, guys? And welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. And today is the day we've been waiting, we've been speculating, and we've been trying to prepare for the Jedi Training version of Rey. And today we got some footage provided by Capital Games to showcase what we are in store for. Now, I've already made a preparation guide for this hero's journey, so if you're looking for a preparation guide, click on the card in the top right-hand corner that I made about a month ago. And long story short, with the Jedi Training version of Rey, she's going to be a tank that has a lot of control over the battlefield, and on top of that, she looks like she's trying to be the ultimate Barriss Zeta counter. As you know, she's one of the most frustrating Zetas in the game, and it looks like Jedi Training Rey is meant to counter that. And lastly, as we'll find out, it looks like she's trying to be a suitable replacement for Finn Zeta in Arena. Looks very interesting, a lot of exposed synergy, kind of like Finn, but let's get into it, talk more about the kit, and we'll get rolling from there. Firstly, let's take a look at her basic known as Connected Strikes. And as we're going to find out here, she has one of the most complicated kits in the game and a lot of conditionals. And as we see with her basic, she deals physical damage to a target enemy, and her damage is increased by 25% for each of the following reasons. Rey has no debuffs, that's plus 25% damage. Rey has any buffs, plus 25% damage. The target has no buffs, another plus 25% damage. And lastly, the target has any debuffs, and that is yet one more reason to increase her damage output by 25%. So best case scenario, she can increase her damage by 100%. Now, she does decent damage for a tank, assuming she meets all four of those requirements, and she's the leader. I've seen plenty of clips around 12,000, 11,000 damage on the basic, which for a tank is pretty high up there, especially when we're considering what her leader ability does. Let's go and move on to her first special ability, known as Defiant Smash. With this special ability, she deals physical damage to a target enemy and inflicts healing immunity for 2 turns, but not just any healing immunity. No. This effect can't be copied, can't be dispelled, and cannot be resisted. So very unique to the Jedi Training Rey here. And you get to target another resistance ally of your choice, dispel all their debuffs, call them into assist, and grant them foresight for 2 turns. And this ability, Defiant Smash, has a cooldown of 5. Now, it looks like the developers have been making note of how powerful Barriss Zeta is and other passive healers such as Chiru Imwe. They have some of the most powerful healing abilities in the game, especially Barriss Zeta. Being able to heal on a critical hit is a big deal, and it times out many people because of that. But being able to lock in healing immunity for 2 turns will make it so much more manageable to take out those general Barriss teams, as I like to call them. However, do keep in mind that healing equalization abilities such as Barriss as well as Chiru Imwe, they can still override your typical healing immunity and still heal your fellow allies, so do keep that in mind. Another cool thing to keep in mind is, let's say for example, Rey uses her Defiant Smash and calls in BB-8 to assist. Well, because of BB-8's unique, anytime he attacks out of his turn, he can call in a random resistance ally to assist off of him. So it's very well possible to use Rey and her Defiant Smash, call in a BB-8 to assist, and in return, he can also call Rey back into assist or some other resistance ally. So this could be a 3-person attacking ability potentially. Moving on to her second special ability, it's called Mind Trick, and really kind of calls back to what old Ben Kenobi can do in this game. She gets to dispel all buffs on the target enemy you are looking at and inflicts ability block, daze, offense down, and speed down for 2 turns. But that's not all. Apparently they want to jam-pack more in this ability. So for each debuff she inflicts, she gets to remove 10% turn meter, and this turn meter removal cannot be resisted. But in the situation a debuff is resisted, you get to remove 20% turn meter as well, and this turn meter removal cannot be resisted. And then for each active resistance ally, gain 15% turn meter, and this attack cannot be evaded. And this ability has a 5-turn cooldown. And I know there's a lot of stuff going on here, but long story short, she is guaranteed to remove at a minimum 40% turn meter and at a maximum 80% turn meter, and in between she might be able to apply some debuffs which would change what percent of turn meter you remove between 40% and 80%. So plenty of guaranteed turn meter removal. The turn meter removal cannot be resisted, this ability cannot be evaded, and she's probably going to apply some powerful debuffs along the way. So this is going to be great for Arena to really control a character that has been causing you mayhem, such as Commander Luke Skywalker or perhaps Raid Han Solo. And this does look like they have some raid viability. Having guaranteed 40 to 80% turn meter removal will help tremendously in that avenue as well. Now, for all you Resistance lovers out there, for the longest time, we've known that Finn Zeta is one of the best Zetas in the game, period, and what makes the Resistance tick, especially on the offensive. Well, it looks like the developers want to make the Resistance a lot better on defense, and they created Rey's leadership ability, known as Inspirational Presence, to draw a little bit from Finn's leadership so you're not losing all of his magical stuff too much and adding a lot more. So let's go and read into it. This does have a Zeta. I will denote it with purple text in the bottom description here, so let's go and read into it. Resistance allies have plus 30% critical chance and plus 30% critical damage. When they score a critical hit, they have a 70% chance to inflict expose for 2 turns, and this expose cannot be resisted. Plus, on top of this, Resistance allies gain 10% turn meter whenever an enemy is exposed, which kind of starts drawing upon what Finn Zeta can do. And what the Zeta adds on Inspirational Presence here is this. When Resistance allies use a special ability, all exposed enemies lose 5% turn meter, which cannot be resisted. And secondly, if the Resistance ally has no debuffs, they get to reduce their cooldowns by 1. Now, if you know how Finn Zeta works, essentially anytime an exposed enemy is hit, you get to reduce the cooldowns of all Resistance allies by 1. Here, they kind of draw upon that in a little way by anytime a Resistance ally has no debuffs and uses a special ability, they get to reduce their cooldowns by 1. And I presume it's their own cooldowns versus all the Resistance allies cooldowns. So Rey's leadership ability is a derivative of Finn Zeta's leader ability. They both share a similarity, but they both offer plenty of exposed synergy and cooldown reductions because that is the heart of the Resistance. On the surface, it looks like Rey's Zeta leadership might be a lot better on defense in Arena, but I and others will test that out as soon as we get access to her on our test accounts. But all in all, this looks to be a very suitable leadership for the Resistance. And just as a quick side note, I think that Rey's Zeta leadership will speed up the process for BB-8's Illuminated Destiny by even more. It's already super fast under a Finn Zeta leadership, but because of the Rey Zeta leadership, every time he uses his ability to spread secret intel, he's reducing the cooldowns of Illuminated Destiny by 1, so this might be even faster under a Finn Zeta leadership. So I think this might be a really great thing to pair with in Arena. 2 more abilities to go, and these are both uniques, and they both have Zetas. Her first unique we have here is called Virtuous Protector, and I will denote what the Zeta is for these next 2 abilities. When another ally suffers a debuff, or when a Resistance ally gains secret intel, which would be quite a lot with BB-8, Rey gains 8% turn meter, and then when Rey suffers a debuff, she has a 40% chance to dispel all debuffs on herself. That is huge, a self-dispeller, and 40% is kind of high considering how many debuffs are floated around in Arena nowadays. And lastly, we have a second unique ability called Insight, and this has a Zeta as well, as I mentioned earlier. At the start of each encounter, Rey gains Foresight until she evades, and then Rey recovers 5% health and 5% protection every time she evades, and this is where the Zeta comes in handy. If Rey has Foresight at the end of her turn, she gains critical damage up until she is damaged, but let's say she still has critical damage up at the end of her next turn, she gains offense up until she is damaged. Wowza! For Rey here, she's not meant to be a typical tank where she's taking all the punches for your team. You might want to use R2D to hide her under stealth and make sure the enemy's not hitting her so she can gain all these lovely buffs and then using her basic to apply all that stacking offense. This could hypothetically be a pretty decent damage dealing tank in terms of what a tank can do. But that is pretty much our Jedi Training Rey. Her event is coming out December 15th for her own hero's journey, so let's go and just wrap up my final initial thoughts I have on this character before we take off. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of controversy revolving around the Rey Jedi Training and her event due to the fact it's not the most obtainable event for most people out there, and like myself, we probably have to wait until the second time around her event is coming out. But after looking at her kit today, I will say she looks to be a very solid character. A lot of stuff going on. I think she'll work in many different types of lineups. The unresistible and unpreventable and uncleansable healing immunity is something that will be really key to take on a lot of teams. But even with that said, even though she has crazy resistance synergy and all that stuff, I don't think she is that much to fret about, unlike Commander Luke Skywalker. Commander Luke Skywalker has been the shining pinnacle on the mountain of what's been the most well-developed, most overpowered kit in this game. So when looking at Jedi Training Rey here, I have to say, although very good, she is a couple notches below him, and I don't think she is going to absolutely break Arena and many other things like Commander Luke Skywalker has. Most of her crazy things relies on having resistance on her team, requires, let's say, having BB-8 Zeta. Like, for example, if you want to get that 3-person assist, it requires a Zeta on BB-8, and when she hits over 20,000, it all comes down to BB-8 using his Illuminated Destiny. Unlike Commander Luke Skywalker, he hits for over 20 and 30,000 consecutively without requiring too much of his fellow allies. So if you're in a situation like me where you might not get Jedi Training Rey this first time around, I don't think there's too much to worry about. We will be missing out on a great character, but not missing out on a character like Commander Luke Skywalker. And if you're someone who's debating if you should focus on Jedi Training Rey or Commander Luke Skywalker, hands down, focus on Commander Luke Skywalker. The requirements are much more attainable, and I think he is the far superior character out of the two. But even with that said, again, Jedi Training Rey is a very good character if you do happen to give her, and I think we have a lot of opportunities with her in the game. And on that bombshell, we're going to wrap up this video of the character reveal for Jedi Training Rey. You guys let me know down below. Be the final verdicts here. Do you think she's going to be an insane character? Should we worry about the fact we might not get her this first time around? Or do you agree with my assessment that although she's a good character, we probably shouldn't worry as much about not getting her this first time around? You guys let me know down below in the comments, and if you did like this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you're not missing a thing. More videos to come on Jedi Training Rey once I get access to her on my test account. And as always...